What do the world's oldest and wealthiest families do when money is no longer a question? When the fortune has been built and preserved for centuries, leisure takes on an entirely different meaning. Forget flashy Lamborghinis or over-the-top yacht parties. Old money families have long relied on quiet, refined pastimes that speak not to excess but to tradition, discipline, and legacy. If you're fascinated by the private world of generational wealth and want to uncover the hidden hobbies that shape the elite, you're in the right place. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the Luxury Lane and turn on notifications. That way, you'll never miss a deep dive into the lives, habits, and secrets of the world's most powerful families. The philosophy behind old money leisure. To understand the hobbies of old money, you first need to understand the mindset behind them. For centuries, aristocratic families across Europe and America carefully selected leisure activities not just for entertainment, but for status, discipline, and networking. For these families, hobbies weren't random indulgences. They were carefully chosen to cultivate refinement, reinforce tradition, and prepare heirs for a lifetime of responsibility. While new money often rushes to display wealth with extravagant thrills, old money tends to embrace pursuits that appear understated to outsiders. But within their circles, signal culture, education, and class. Activities like horseback riding, fencing, or opera appreciation aren't just about enjoyment, they're subtle signals. A game of polo can open doors to international elite circles. A collection of rare art demonstrates taste and connoisseurship passed down through generations. Even the hobbies of leisure carry the quiet weight of identity. Equestrian traditions, horses, polo, and the hunt. If there's one pastime synonymous with old money, it's equestrianism. For centuries, horses have been both a practical necessity and a symbol of refinement. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, horseback riding had cemented its place as a cornerstone of aristocratic leisure. Polo, the sport of kings. Originating in Persia and embraced by British officers stationed in India, polo became the sport of kings and was quickly adopted by Europe's elite. To this day, polo clubs serve as exclusive gathering grounds where wealth and tradition converge. The barrier to entry is steep. Not only do you need a stable of well-trained horses, but you also need the land, the club membership, and the social capital to be invited in. In the United States, the Rockefellers and Mellons once dominated polo fields. In Europe, it became an intergenerational ritual where young heirs learned the discipline of teamwork, horsemanship, and endurance, all while networking with their peers from other powerful families. The hunt, fox hunting, and beyond. Equestrian life also extends into hunting traditions. Fox hunting in England, stag hunting in France, and even pheasant shoots in the American countryside became more than just sport. They were rituals of community. Dressed in tailored hunting jackets and boots, families would gather for day-long events that blurred the line between social gathering and outdoor challenge. Hunting reinforced ideals of courage, self-control, and stewardship of the land. To outsiders, it might seem antiquated, but within old money circles it was, and still is, a symbol of continuity. The gentle art of collecting. Another defining old money pastime is collecting. Unlike the adrenaline-driven hobbies of new money, collecting speaks to patience, scholarship, and a long-term appreciation for beauty. The Vanderbilts, Carnegies, and Astors didn't just build mansions. They filled them with European masterpieces, sculptures, and rare books. Collecting art has always been a way to preserve culture while signaling taste and intellectual refinement. But more than that, it often became a form of quiet financial strategy. Fine art, carefully curated, tends to appreciate across generations. For some families, collecting antique furniture or rare first-edition books offered a different kind of prestige. Old money homes often doubled as living museums where every item carried a story. Walking into such a residence wasn't just about admiring wealth, it was about admiring the depth of heritage and the careful preservation of history. Wine cellars, too, became an intergenerational passion. Old money families often own estates in Bordeaux or Tuscany, not just for business but for culture. Tasting, trading, and curating vintages became as much a ritual as a hobby, connecting generations to a tradition of craftsmanship and exclusivity. Music, opera, and the arts. Another cornerstone of elite leisure is a cultivated appreciation for the arts. Attending the opera, sponsoring a symphony, or studying classical instruments has long been a marker of refinement.
For centuries, opera houses were more than cultural centers. They were social theaters. The box seats at venues like La Scala in Milan or the Metropolitan Opera in New York weren't just about enjoying Puccini or Verdi. They were about being seen, reaffirming social standing, and participating in a centuries-old ritual of aristocratic life. Children of old money families were often expected to master instruments like the piano, violin, or cello, not to pursue careers as musicians, but to display discipline and refinement. The ability to play a Chopin nocturne or a Bach concerto in a private salon was a subtle way of signaling culture and education. Beyond attendance, many old money families became patrons of the arts, endowing museums, theaters, and orchestras. This wasn't just philanthropy. It was a continuation of their role as cultural custodians. By funding the arts, they weren't just enjoying leisure. They were shaping culture itself, sailing, yachting, and the sea. When land-based pursuits weren't enough, the wealthy turned their attention to the water. But while new money might gravitate toward oversized super yachts dripping in chrome and neon lighting, old money prefers something more understated, yet no less exclusive: sailing. In New England, regattas have long been a staple of blue blood families. Newport, Rhode Island, became a hub where the Astors, Vanderbilts, and Morgans anchored their summer seasons. Owning a yacht wasn't about spectacle. It was about craftsmanship, tradition, and belonging to elite yacht clubs where admission wasn't bought. It was earned through generations of presence and respect. The New York Yacht Club, founded in 1844, became a symbol of this culture. Its annual regattas were more than races. They were gatherings of the East Coast elite, where leisure merged with prestige. For old money, sailing was never about speed alone. It was about the ritual of crew discipline, understanding the wind, and mastering patience on the water. Many aristocratic families also maintained coastal estates, where summers were spent hosting garden parties overlooking the Atlantic or Mediterranean. These were retreats, but also spaces to reinforce family ties and nurture discreet business conversations away from the public eye. Fine dining and the ritual of food. Dining in old money circles has always extended far beyond nourishment. It is a ritual, an art form, and, in many cases, a performance of subtle power. Old money homes often employed generations of staff who carried family recipes and traditions forward. Meals were multi-course affairs, designed not just to satisfy the palate, but to teach etiquette, patience, and conversation. For the wealthy, a dinner table wasn't simply a place to eat. It was a stage for influence. Guests were carefully chosen, seating arrangements strategically planned, and conversations guided to strengthen alliances. The dining room was where marriages were arranged, partnerships formed, and legacies secured. Much like art, old money also collected food and wine experiences. Rare vintages, truffles, and access to exclusive culinary artisans became another way to demonstrate taste. But unlike new money's flashy displays, old money preferred to keep such luxuries understated, savoring them within private circles. Exclusive clubs and memberships. Few symbols of leisure speak louder about old money than membership in exclusive clubs. These were not gyms or nightclubs, but highly guarded societies where wealth, lineage, and character determined entry. In the US, country clubs became the bastions of elite networking. Golf courses, tennis courts, and swimming pools were merely the backdrop. What really mattered was the exclusivity of membership, where generations of families mingled in a controlled environment free of outsiders. In Britain, gentlemen's clubs like White's, Brooks's, or the Reform Club offered cigar rooms, libraries, and dining halls where the aristocracy gathered. Membership was fiercely selective, and to be admitted was to inherit centuries of cultural and social capital. These clubs weren't about recreation alone. They were about reinforcing class boundaries and ensuring that the next generation of heirs grew up within the same elite networks. Leisure, once again, was inseparable from strategy. Intellectual pursuits. Old money. Leisure often extended into the realm of the mind. Unlike the constant stimulation of modern entertainment, aristocratic families valued activities that demanded focus, reflection, and learning. Walking into an old money estate often means entering a library filled with first editions, historical archives, and leather-bound classics. Reading wasn't optional, it was expected. Young heirs were guided toward philosophy, history, and literature, cultivating not only intelligence but also conversation skills for social gatherings.
Chess, bridge, and backgammon were popular pastimes that encouraged strategy and patience. They were games of the mind, where quick wit and foresight mattered more than chance. A well-played game could demonstrate intellect, composure, and refinement, traits valued in elite circles. Some families even pursued scholarly hobbies. Collecting manuscripts, funding archaeological digs, or sponsoring universities allowed them to not only indulge curiosity, but also cement their names in academic history. Their leisure was often disguised as philanthropy, but in truth it was a blend of passion, prestige, and legacy. Travel as tradition. Today's wealthy might flaunt private jets on Instagram, but old money treats travel as something more sacred, an education. For centuries, young aristocrats embarked on the grand tour, a months or years-long journey through Europe designed to expose them to art, history, and culture. They studied in Florence, marveled at Roman ruins, and listened to lectures in Paris. The goal wasn't leisure alone, it was transformation. Many families maintained residences in different countries, rotating between winter in Switzerland, spring in Paris, summer in the Hamptons, or the Riviera. These weren't vacations. They were rhythms of life designed to weave their families into international circles of influence. While new money might charter mega yachts or splash across tabloids with lavish getaways, old money tends to travel discreetly. They prefer the timeless resorts, the private islands no one talks about, and the traditions of cultural immersion rather than spectacle. For them, the luxury is in continuity, not novelty. Philanthropy as a leisure pursuit. To outsiders, philanthropy might look like duty, but within old money circles, giving back is often as much a pastime as it is a responsibility. The wealthy long ago learned that to be seen as true custodians of society, they had to direct part of their fortune into causes that preserve culture and stability. Think of the Rockefellers funding universities, the Carnegies building libraries, or the Mellons establishing art foundations. These weren't just acts of generosity, they were lifestyle choices. An afternoon spent meeting with curators, touring new museum wings, or selecting which opera to fund was leisure disguised as influence. Charity galas and benefit balls were another arena where philanthropy blended with pleasure. A glittering evening of music and champagne doubled as a stage to showcase generosity, secure reputations, and strengthen elite networks, all under the banner of altruism. For old money, leisure wasn't about withdrawal from responsibility. It was about weaving enjoyment into duties that reinforced their power. Outdoor sporting traditions. Old money has always embraced the outdoors, but not in the casual sense of weekend camping. Their pursuits were tied to heritage, discipline, and exclusivity. Country clubs placed golf and tennis at the center of leisure culture. Golf was never only about the sport, it was about patience, strategy, and the unspoken conversations carried between holes. Tennis, often played on private courts, became a tradition where discipline met social grace. By the 20th century, skiing became a staple among Europe's aristocracy. Places like St. Moritz and Gstaad weren't just ski destinations, they were seasonal migrations of the elite. Generations of families gathered in chalets, passing down both technique and tradition. Fly fishing in Scotland, sailing in Nantucket, or rowing along private lakes represented another layer of quiet pastimes. These weren't adrenaline-chasing sports. They were deliberate, meditative, and deeply tied to a philosophy of control and respect for nature. Evolution of old money leisure in the modern age. Today, as wealth takes on flashier expressions, old money traditions stand out precisely because of their resistance to change. While new billionaires might experiment with space tourism or hyper-luxury experiences, old money families continue with polo, art collecting, exclusive clubs, and understated travel. The continuity itself is a form of wealth, a reminder that their families have no need to chase trends because they already define them. That said, hobbies have evolved. Today, philanthropy often extends into environmental causes, sustainability, and global education. Technology has become a quiet interest as well, with families investing in tech-based art, biotech, or funding think tanks. But the approach remains the same, understated, long-term, and legacy-driven. Ultimately, the leisure of old money isn't about boredom or idleness. It's about rituals that reinforce identity. Whether through libraries, regattas, or concerts, their pastimes are threads woven into a larger tapestry of culture, legacy, and influence. And so, while new wealth might chase thrills in ways designed to be seen, old money continues to live by a different code. Their leisure is never just about entertainment. It is about endurance, continuity, and the subtle assertion that true luxury is not loud. It's quiet, it's disciplined, and it's passed from one generation to the next.